Right now, Pure Sport is entering the biggest phase of growth that we've ever had. We're trying to scale from 10 million to 50 million in revenue. And the more that we grow, the more that we've realized something. High performance companies are built by high performance teams. How you communicate, how you lead, and how you handle pressure when things get tough. So today we're bringing one of the top high performance leadership coaches in the world to put the entire team under the microscope. These are the kind of days that companies usually spend tens of thousands of pounds on and keep behind closed doors.
It's mad, I don't know who's real. I still got goals I ain't hit just yet, not clear, I don't know how it feels. God forbid if I die today, beg friend people in the church. Real one turning into I guess you don't know your worth.
I kind of knew of Rory from in and around my rugby days. He was actually at Newcastle before I was there at Newcastle Falcons. And then I actually came to know him through playing touch on a Tuesday night. So a friend of mine brought me down to this touch team. Rory was part of it, and then we've got to know each other really well over the last few years. And the key reason that I wanted to bring Rory in is because not only is he somebody who's made a career post rugby around building high performing teams with Kianis, he's actually someone who's really been in those high performing environments. He was the captain of Scotland. He's been to 2 World Cups. And him and I, there's a lot of companionship there of the different experiences that we've each had with leadership. So I thought he'd be the perfect person to come into an environment like this. Lots of the stuff that I talk about it is from my rugby days, the things that I learned in and around leadership in rugby, and that would be a message that resonated with the team through someone like him.
A celebration of...
I think there's just something so good about team sport. Just like pace of it and all the communication and feedback and stuff. But definitely miss it. Just too old to keep playing it. Jerry, that's nice, Mango. Oh, that's life. He could have scored.
Low like them. It was that deep, me in the backseat thinking, yo, let's get them guys. K got locked just recently, and now it got me thinking twice. Only right that I got me a wife. When I'm single, I cannot focus, yo. You man feel outspoken, me I just feel like I can't be open. Each and every one of us got motion, so our dependence gonna be frozen. You man talk freely about me when I'm there. The energy different. If I bail you, I hear excuses. If you bail me, I'm there in an instant. There ain't no cheat codes to the success. Just gotta grind and stay consistent.
Off the back of sport, I got injured, and then I launched and ran a startup for 6 years, from concept through to we exited at the end of 2019, which was tough. So I know what it's like doing this stuff. It's hard, Consumer goods is hard, and the importance of the stuff that I would have taken naturally in the sport environment is more so, even more in the business world, because it's people have a choice, right? In sport, you're doing your hobby as your job. So yeah, but it's all about people. It's about trying to build people, build bonds, build performance. So yeah, that's great. Listen, it's run about on a Tuesday night, which is how I know Temm best now.
I think like marathon training, it can be like very individual. You're just doing a lot of miles by yourself and stuff. So I think things like this really remind you like why sport is so good and why like the camaraderie of sport is so special. Like we talked about problem solving, playing with a team, having a laugh when people make mistakes. I think all those things about what makes sport special.
Yeah, so today we're just getting set up for a workshop that we're doing here on high performance culture. So before this, all the team have filled out a survey of where they think the culture is right now, and then also a leadership survey themselves about their different leadership qualities, and it's basically given everyone like a ranking score as well as the business. So we're going to be going through some of those results today. Rory's going to be leading the session, and what it's going to be really about is like really getting under the bonnet of our current culture, where we want it to be, and sort of taking this real bird's eye view of like if we were thinking about our culture for the next 20, 50 years, what would we want it to be, and then coming back down in the afternoon to be like, okay, these are the things that we can all do right now. So we're just getting set up now. It's about 20 minutes until the team gets here, and then it's going to be a full day workshop.
What I want to do is set a platform whereby the team get the chance to connect, to talk about stuff they wouldn't normally talk about, that aren't necessarily directly linked to the roles, so more linked to the team, the culture, the performance, and really this is the platform.
think professional sport as an environment cultivates a group of very high-performing individuals, and one of those things about it is there's always a feel for how the team is feeling, and in professional sport, feedback and transparency and all those things, it's just so prominent in the changing room. People always say about how they feel, the bounce of the group, the energy of the group, how training's going, etc. So I've never been someone who's scared of like going face first into hard things. And I think I knew that a day like that was, going to bring up some things that were challenging for people. People were going to voice things that they were unhappy about. But I think that's so important because, if you're in teams, in rugby, we used to call it, if people would sort of be off to the side, we used to say, oh, you're going for a sappuccino, because they were off to the side, bit bitter about things or creating problems off to the side, as opposed to like really confronting those in the group. And I think if those problems are out and confronted in the group, they can then be sorted and talked about and almost put to rest. So I knew that would kind of be what Rory was able to probe out of the group. But that's also what we wanted. We want people to be honest. If we know about the things that are going on about here, what people like, what they don't like, how they feel, then we can head into some of those.
How are we all doing? Yeah. This feels cool. This feels on brand for what the day's going to be today. So first of all, some ground rules. You kind of heard, no phones, no laptops. There's a lot of creativity in here. There's a lot of ADHD. I know, so let's move those distractions out of the room today. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Rory today. Rory's successfully transitioned out of rugby and is really passionate now about building high performance team cultures. Very often he's going to these huge businesses, JP Morgan, big banks, etc. And these companies, they're really looking to turn their cultures around, and not often you come into a business like ours with huge ambitions of where we want to be, trying to really set the culture out.
To begin with, firstly, the way it's really nice to be in a room with a team that are fresh-faced and hungry and keen to go to work on something. My one-word check-in to kick us off would be I'm excited because I know where Pure Sport is. It's been a brand that I've known basically since it launched, and I know where you are on the journey at the moment, and the thought of you guys doing this kind of thing now excites me hugely because I can see where the brand is tracking and the impact that a day like this can have if you all get involved, so I'm excited. We're going to start with the Hinterland. I'll get into that in due course. It will probably be different to anything you've done before. It's one of the most profound elements of any leadership program I run. I'll ask you to go all in on it. Then we're going to look at the cultural footprint. So culture, as we all know, is a living, breathing thing that can change, it never stands still. So for you to understand the Pure Sport culture in its current form and where you can take ownership and focus your attention to be able to elevate it, to continue to drive it forwards. But I think culture is one of the things that I think culture is so often spoke on, but people don't always understand what the key components of culture are. So we'll get into that. Hinterland is a German word meaning the land beyond or behind what is known. The task I'm going to set you is you're going to have about an hour in pairs, okay? So someone who you don't necessarily work with all that much, someone who you don't know all that well, and going to go away, find some space, and you're going to explore each other's hinterland. Starting question, prompter, where are you from? Tell me a bit about what life was like growing up, who was around you. Try and get some names and details in there as well. But you take it in turns to be the person asking the questions, taking copious notes, and circling things that you think that really jump out to you, and then you'll change after 30 minutes, and then you swap roles. Now this isn't a discussion whereby I ask Dan about his upbringing, and then he says something, and I say, oh yeah, I was like that too, and I remember when this happened at home. Okay, it's very much a listening exercise, absorbing what your teammate is saying, your partner is saying, and taking notes, and then at the end, summarise your key takeaways, because you're all going to come back in afterwards and have 3 or 4 minutes to tell the story of your teammate. Find your pairs, find your way to pairs, and
lifestyle changed, and I think that just threw everything on its head basically. So my escape was then sport, because I was like, okay, well, I've got community here, I've got a sense of purpose, no one's gonna let me down. Like, I can run and decide who I'm gonna be. And I think that's when athletics found me. I think it was the semi-finals at the World Championships. I won it, and I ran a PB into a headwind, and that's always like a great sign. And I remember walking up before the final, and one of the team coaches there said, "You've got an opportunity to change your life here before the final." And I remember walking out to the start line, the TV comes on, I did my little entrance, little whatever, I can't remember what the hell I did to the camera. And I remember being on the start line thinking, you get to A to B as fast as you can, you're gonna walk out of here tonight and your life's gonna be completely changed. And you can't give me that opportunity right in front of me, I'm not gonna take it. I have to take it.
And I'd now, was working for this guy, kind of owned like 3 to 4 businesses. There was lots going on, he was always in meetings and stuff. And I really started to enjoy that, of like the kind of like fingering a few pies, how business worked, etc.
So would you say the spark for business kind of started?
Yeah, no, it really did. I definitely had entrepreneurship throughout my life. Like I was the kid who was selling sweets in school for $1 and, you know, getting them for 20 cents from the shop. I always had this like entrepreneurial of like, oh, if I don't have something, I can make it happen. I think that the day so far has been like really interesting. I think you know, hearing everyone's personal stories about their upbringings and the things that have shaped their life, I think it was just so interesting to hear that, and like so many people's paths of their life has like really been led by the nurture of their environment, their childhood, those things that have shaped them, and now into the roles that they're in. So hearing like some of those stories, some of the openness, some of the candor from people, and really like understanding the person behind the role. You know, obviously we know what everyone does here, we've got a bit of a sense of their personality, but not necessarily that level back of why they are how they are. So that part of the morning's been really great, and then seeing how we shape up as a team in terms of all these different leadership things, I think it's just so interesting to see it all up on the board in the same place. So it's absolutely flown by. We've been in there for 4 hours. So a great start to the morning, and then now we'll move into like what actually a high performing environment looks like, and how can we shape that here.
Final team name?
Dogs.
Old dogs.
I guess maybe it's a question to everyone, like, where does that fear come from? Or is it an SLT thing, or is it we're trying to get 10.6 mil this year and I'm scared that if I don't do this, it's gonna blah, blah, blah. Because when I first started, I felt that if you feel like the lack of asking something or saying something is gonna result in a resentment, then you kind of gotta get ahead of that. High performing teams should not be scared of saying things. That's really silly to me. Like, if you want to succeed, everyone's adult. If you want to succeed, if you want to do what you need to do, you're human first, you need to be happy in order to do your work well, you have to speak up.
Courageous conversations are a pillar of high performance. Being able to lean into the courageous conversations, don't leave things unsaid. And I think we're getting there. We're eking things out a little bit.
Like, there can be quite a lot of like people feeling like talking is communicating, and I think sometimes there's a lot of like waffle rather than just like getting across the key bits of like, this is what I need, this is what I need, you know, this is what I need, or this is what I need from you. Like real clarity and communication. And I think sometimes that can lead to like quite a lot of inefficiency, like maybe like meetings that just like go on because there's like not a super clear agenda about what actually needs to be covered. Like concise but meaningful communication, I think, is something that needs a lot of work. Now I know like I'm probably like really direct and like on the other end of that, so that has to be a thing. You know, you have to strike a balance, but sometimes I just feel like, oh, there's like a lot of speaking, but what are you actually saying? Like, what do you need from me? When do you need it? Like, yeah.
Thank you from me on that. It's been really, really great, and I promise you that we'll take away, these things. We're always hopefully going to be coming in maybe once every couple of months to sort of do, carry on some of these workshops and keep it flowing through the business.
I never fail to get to the end of these days without realising like the energy that goes into it. So for me, it takes a bit of energy, but actually taking people out of their day-to-day. Because if you think about it, most people in work show up and they jump on the hamster wheel and everything's like, most things are natural because it's their skill set, they know what they're doing. Take them out of it and they're using different parts of their brain to think about different challenges, trying to be creative and insightful and give everything they've got. It takes a lot of energy. So, and then when we got into the meaty stuff this afternoon, there was an edge there. There was a discomfort at times, but then there's nothing better than feeling, you know, people checking out with one word checkouts of, I feel lighter, I feel inspired, I feel empowered. These are like things that really land, and I think it's really important that other people in the team hear their teammates say that kind of stuff, because it makes the edgy stuff worthwhile.
Yeah, so going away from it, I think, you know, I knew going into it, but I think one of the things I definitely left thinking about with the day is that we have a group of people here who really care about what we're doing and what we're building, and that they play an important part in that. I think, you know, anyone growing a startup, especially when it's been 2 people, 5 people, then 10 people, and then more. In those early days, you're really fighting against bureaucracy for the business to become more bureaucratic, for there to be more organization, more processes, more systems, more management. And when you've come from that environment, you really fight against a lot of those things. But I think a lot of the nature of some of the things that came out of the day, and a lot of the things that, whether there was frustration or the team wanted us to progress in, were those things of just growing up as a business. You know, when you grow up as a business, you need better people management. You know, you need better processes in the business for decision making. People need more autonomy about how they succeed, how they do a good job. So I think those are my thoughts, you know, going away from it. Not too much surprise, and it's just the nature of growing up in the next phase that we're in.
Alrighty team, that's the end of another episode. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode and sort of the honest and transparent insight into what it's like to build a high-performing team in our business, but also what it takes in any business. You have big ambitions, you want to build something special, or you want to do something that's not been done before, you're not going to be able to do it without an amazing team. So I hope you took away some value from the video, and if there's any further questions about it or other things you'd love to see, would love to hear about that in the comments below. But until next week, have a great week, and we'll see you then. Here we go team, so it's time to pick the comment winner from last week's video. Pick a random. Here we go, Archie, super interesting. Thanks for the in-depth video. Keep it going, man. I know Archie, he's been a follower of the brand for a long time. Archie, you're this week's winner.